and welcome on this sort of rainy, who can tell what it's going to do out day. It's supposed to be spring, but anyway, we opened with an old circus march called the Purple Carnival. That's named that for no particular reason. He just sort of liked that title. It's the kind of a piece that is usually used to open like the second half of the circus, right after the intermission. And nothing particular is going on. It's just to get everything back into the flow again. Purple Carnival by Harry L. Alford. Not to be confused with Kenneth J. Alford, who we will hear from. Well, I'm not going to tell you that because it's an encore, but I'm not going to tell you that either. Harry L. Alford was an American composer who was best known actually as what you would call a utility composer. So when you would have vaudeville and burlesque and all of these sort of acts, he wrote all the music that would like be between the acts. Or he would take a song that someone brought in here. I have the sheet music of this. Can we get an arrangement of this by 5 o'clock? And he was the go-to guy for all of the extra music that was done in the theater in New York. And I think I may have put this in the program, but there was a point at which there wasn't a theater in New York that wasn't playing something that he had written or covered for. He's just one of those utility kinds of guys. Not to be confused with Kenneth Alford, who you'll hear from later on, but he wrote Colonel Bogey, and he's a British composer. Very, very, very different style. So, but they're two Alfords, and they're both on the same program. That's why. Well, anyway. So we're going to move on. This show is about water. It's billed as mostly about Moby Dick and the wonderful great white whale and everything. But it's about water in general. We're starting out with George Washington Bridge, which is that magnificent structure that goes over the Hudson River in New York. And in 1950, William Schuman, the American composer, who was a contemporary of Morton Gould, and people like that that were beginning to be really, really well known in the 1950s. But he taught at Juilliard, and he taught at Manhattan School, and he taught at all these places, and he began writing music for contemporary bands, college bands and things like that. But he would commute from the New York shore over the Hudson River and into New York, and he would see the George Washington Bridge, even as it was being built. He remembered it, so that dates him. But it has to do with not just the hustle and bustle of New York, but rather the magnificence of the structure and the strength of the iron and the steel, and the work that it took to build it, and how it doesn't say this in the program, but I have read where he has said that when you have anything that's this beautifully constructed, it becomes a force of nature. So it becomes not just a structure, but it becomes part of the landscape. And so what I want you to hear in George Washington Bridge by Schumann is the strength in the structure, and it's a powerful. It's noisy at times, it's quiet at times, it's excited at times, but be thinking of it as a structure that we have put on Earth that's above and beyond what's been given us, but it becomes part and parcel of what we've been given, and very likely to last just as long, just as we think of the pyramids, as look at how long ago those were, or Stonehenge. So something like the George Washington Bridge becomes a force. So this is William Schumann's George Washington Bridge. The next piece on the program is by Johan deMeij. And Johan deMeij, some of you might remember, it's been a few years now, we played his complete first symphony, which is entitled The Lord of the Rings, and we played that entire piece. I think it's five years ago now, it's been a while. But he's quite a talented, I want to say young composer, but he was young when he wrote The Lord of the Rings. Now he's my age, so we're in trouble. At any rate, he's written, when he came here from the Netherlands, and he settled in upstate New York. Well, if you live in New York City, it's upstate New York, which means Westchester County, which is about, a half an hour out of New York. It's not really upstate, but he lives up near, across on the eastern side of the Hudson River from the Catskills. But he has written this piece with folk songs that he presumes are all from the Catskills, some of which are not. But it's a really nice arrangement of American folk tunes. And Johan deMeij he's done a great service to American, for American music, and keeping a lot of these folk songs alive. Much the same as Claire Grundman did back in the 1950s, for those of you who are aficionados of band music and orchestra music. So he takes the themes and puts them in sort of newer settings. But I think when you hear this, you'll agree that he's got the right idea. You're going to feel when you're done like you've been working on the railroad. Not because I've been working on the railroad is not in here. But there are some other things that will give you the cool idea that you might have been or something. So anyway, this is Johan deMeij's, what is it? Songs from the Catskills. I keep wanting to say the Hudson River Adventure because there's another piece that's very, very, very similar to this. But we think you'll enjoy this and enjoy Johan deMeij's work. Songs from the Catskills. We're going to take a short break now, and you can find some goodies out in the hallway, and we'll be back in about 10 minutes, okay, with some Moby Dick. Now we'll get into the sailor mode. So everybody put on your sailor's caps and, well, you probably don't have them. Anyway, we're going to start out with a Sousa march, and it will be obvious why it's Jack Tar. Notice the bosun's whistle going on there. We have a real bosun's whistle, and we have a real ship's bell back there. Well, it's not real. It's not really a ship's bell. It's to call people in for dinner at the cottage. But it could be a ship's bell if we wanted. Anyway, this next piece is a piece that I've wanted to perform this for quite a long time. One of the more difficult American college band director composers is W. Francis McBeth, who for years and years was the person who would show up to do the all-state bands and be a clinician at colleges, and everybody'd go, "Oh no, it's McBeth," and that sounds bad anyway. But he would come in, and he was rough. He was really tough on everything, and his music is very exacting, and it's very I want to say avant-garde because at the time it was. This isn't like the Schuman. It's not heavy duty with dissonance and things in it, but it really tells a story well, and it's the story of essentially the novel Moby Dick by Herman Melville. And you're going to hear all kinds of things in it. You'll hear the waves. You'll hear all sorts of special effects. You'll hear the bosun's whistle. You'll hear just all kinds of stuff going on. The opening movement is Ishmael, and for those of you who don't know the story, Ishmael starts out the entire novel by saying, "Call me Ishmael," and he goes on to describe everything that goes on from the time that he arrives, at the whaling town, and at the very end when he's the only one left alive. At the end, I'm giving that away. He's the only one after all is said and done. There he is on a piece of driftwood or piece of debris, flotsam and jetsam, and picked up by one of the ships that was nearby. So he's the beginning and he's the end. So Call Me Ishmael, and the first movement talks a little bit about Ishmael, but I want you to be listening to the sea and listening to the sounds of the sea. The second movement is called Queequeg, and Queequeg was Ishmael's bunkmate. Now, he wasn't just a bunkmate. He was a bunkmate actually to begin with when they were in the boarding house waiting to get on board ship. And he realizes in the middle of the night when his bunkmate comes, they're sharing a bed. And he looks up and here's his bunkmate, who happens to be about 6.5 feet tall with tattoos from head to foot. Because he in fact is a cannibal. And a native of, I'm not sure if we ever exactly know which island, but he turns out to be just this incredible sailor. And he's just an incredible person. So we get a little bit about the character of Queequeg. The third one is a hymn that is sung. The words that are in your program actually are a poem by Melville that isn't in Moby Dick. It's a separate poem that he wrote about the ribs of a whale, which is very powerful stuff. But it's the choir singing right after a sermon given by this preacher who's the chapel is in this of course, the whaling town, and where the pulpit is the bow of a ship with the bowsprit coming out, and it's all, so he's giving his sermon from there, and he has told everybody that in fact they're going to die. They're going to hell because of what they're doing. Is they're just doing everything that you shouldn't be doing. You're going off, and you have done bad things, and of course, but you get this sort of sense of doom, and you'll hear this is one of the things that's unique about this is that you're going to hear the band sing. And they're going, no, you're not. Yes, they are. So anyway, the band sings, but you get this really eerie feeling that something bad's going to happen. And the master of the ship is, of course, Captain Ahab, and the fifth movement is Ahab. And Ahab has a grudge for this white whale, who in fact, and it's the reason he has a peg leg, because the whale has eaten off this one leg. And this is all very biblical. This is all very much the book of Jonah and the book of Job. It's very, very Old Testament and very dark. And all the characters in this have Old Testament counterparts. But anyway, so there's Ahab, and you hear about Ahab is raging about the white whale. And finally, in the last movement, we in fact meet Moby Dick. And what I want you to pay attention to, and this is another very unique thing, or it was at the time, there are free sections where you're going to hear the birds chirping and the bubbles and the things on the water. And when you hear the silence of the bubbles and the birds and then all of a sudden, Moby Dick comes up through the water. He crashes through, and so this is the fight to the finish. This great white whale. It's a wonderful, wonderful piece of tone poem writing, and we think you'll enjoy this. And I've been waiting to do this until we could. So we will, without further ado, give you Of Sailors and Whales by Francis McBeth. I think I gave away the secret earlier. Moby Dick will wear you out. The last thing that we see of Moby Dick is going down into the water with Ahab holding onto a spear in his back, and he goes down, and that takes care of that. But it's a great book if you haven't read it. It's long, it's wordy, but it's well worth a read because the language is just spectacular in it. A lot of people say, "Oh, that's a boy's book." Well, no, it's not. It's a book. Yes, it's adventure, but it's about words and just spectacular writing. So read Moby Dick if you have a chance, or some of the shorter works by Melville are just splendid. We are going to play a piece now by the other Alford, Kenneth Alford, who's famous for Colonel Bogey and a bunch of other regimental marches, mostly around the First World War time. But before we play that, I want you to know that on the 5th of May we're having, it's a Thursday concert, which will, 15th, sorry, June. In this year of 1985, we're 4 scores, that's it. I suppose you wonder why I've called you all together here. I don't know. Don't know myself. So anyway, on June what? June 13th. Well, I was wrong on all counts. Except we're going to have our spring concert, which will feature some of the seniors graduating from here. Just for those of you who don't know, the Nashoba Symphonic Band, which is nine years old now, was put together, and it's unique, which means it's one of a kind, where it's a combination of students, parents, faculty, and community members, all in one spot. And we're very fortunate to have this wonderful combination of folks that get together just to make music. And I often say this, it always amazes me how we can have 90 people sit down with this piece of paper in front of them and they all play, and gosh, some pretty good stuff comes out. It's pretty good. So on the in June, on the Thursday that it says in your program, and we'll also be playing some Vaughan Williams, his folk song suite, and we're going to tell you a story. We're going to do Tubby the Tuba. So that ought to be enough just to bring. Well, I'm going to come. No, anyway, it's a great story. It's a lot of fun, and we're just going to have some fun. And then we begin again next season on November 3rd is our first concert in the fall. And I will mention this once right now is Robert Sheldon, who is a well-known composer of music for college bands and professional bands. We have commissioned him to write us a piece for next May. And so next May we will be premiering a piece by Robert Sheldon, which promises to be a tone poem about the wolf, and the wolf being our mascot here at Nashoba. And so it's going to have to do with the legend of the wolf. And so we're really looking forward to that, because his music, I don't know if you've heard it, but it's great stuff. Anybody who's an educator here's going, yeah, Robert Sheldon, it's good stuff. So we invite you to keep track. If you have a chance, there's a list out in the hallway where you can sign up to be on our mailing list, so we can send you a list of our programs for the year if you don't already have them through Family Connections or whatever. So we will finish tonight with a little march by Kenneth Alford. It was called On the Quarterdeck.
Thank you. Jake.